Michael Scott Moore, The Desert and the Sea, 977 Days Captive on the Somali Pirate Coast. Dive into the harrowing true story of Michael Scott Moore's 977-day captivity in Somalia, with the book summary of The Desert and the Sea. This gripping account sheds light on the complexities of modern piracy and the personal ordeal Moore faced on a daily basis. You will be introduced to the difficult circumstances he faced, including isolation, violence, conflicting pirates' beliefs, and illogical ransom demands. Discover the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of acceptance, as the author learns to cope with the mental and physical challenges of being a hostage.
The reality of modern piracy. The author's curiosity about modern piracy was piqued during his research on how surfing had become a global hit. While at first, he was drawn to the romanticized stories of pirates, the rise of piracy in Somalia revealed a more violent and disturbing reality. He decided to make his way to Somalia to understand what the rise of modern piracy signifies and what it reveals about the breakdown of order in the world at large. The author's personal account of his journey to Somalia and the insights he gained on the realities of modern piracy is a must-read. The Risky Expedition. Professional journalist, Moore, embarked on a risky research expedition to interview a pirate in Hobyo, Somalia. He took precautions and relied on his status as President Allen's guest and the presence of Gerlach, a member of the Saad clan, for protection. However, things went awry when rumors of a $15 million reward for Moore's kidnapping circulated. Despite feeling unease during ceremonial dining and receiving celebrity status recognition at the airport, Moore continued on. Ultimately, he had to leave Somalia soon after. Hostage in Somalia. In this gripping narrative, the author recounts his capture by a group of armed men in Somalia and subsequent abduction as a hostage for over 977 days. From his initial disbelief of the situation to the crushing realization that he was no longer a free man, the author reflects on the mistakes that led to his downfall. His status as a Western writer and a trust in his contacts made him an easy target for the kidnappers. As his captivity dragged on, he realized that the assurances he had been given were hollow and that he had been betrayed. This book is a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the risks of traveling to unstable regions without adequate protection. Friendships in Captivity. Hostage, Michael Moore's isolation was unbearable until he met fellow prisoners and made friends. Moore met Seychellois fishermen, Raleigh Tambara and Mark Sangwar, who shared their bizarre capture story. Pirates had misread the writing on their boat, assuming they were Australian, and shot a blank round at Sangwar when he couldn't understand. Moore also met a crew of diverse nationalities from the Naim 3. Communication was possible through a pidgin language of English, Chinese, Spanish, and others. The friendships Moore formed helped him cope with his ordeal. Pirate's Life, Khat, Addiction, and Islam. The book's author encounters Somali pirates who exhibit a fascination with the stimulant drug khat and a commitment to Islam. The pirates' addiction habits, including Bashko's $600 monthly expenditure, are renowned. The influence of khat does not stop at addiction, as the pirates' daily habits and behavior revolve around obtaining it. However, the pirates' grip on the religion is mainly superficial, with their actions displaying their primary tribalism. For these guards, Islam's beliefs are bent to fit their beliefs, with Bashko claiming that being both a thief and a Muslim is permissible due to the crisis in Somalia. Interestingly, Bashko equates piracy with fighting infidels, and Italian journalists revealed that the mafia could be sending industrial waste to Somalian waters through the locals' help, which some pirates portray as war against the West. The bizarre demands of pirates. In this book excerpt, the author recounts his experience of being held captive by pirates who made unreasonable demands and baseless threats. Despite setting an initial ransom demand of $20 million, which was impossible to fulfill, the pirates refused to negotiate and continued to make empty threats. Furthermore, the negotiations were peculiar, with the pirates insisting on bizarre demands such as a letter from President Obama. The author found the experience terrifying as the pirate's inconsistent logic and behavior wore him down. Finding hope in hostage. Being a hostage is a harrowing experience. The threat of violence is always present, and the tedium that comes with captivity can be overwhelming. For Nigel Moore, his captivity took a toll on his mental health. But he found a way to cope and even thrive in the midst of his ordeal. He turned to distractions like yoga and keeping up with daily routines. But what really helped him was a change in mindset that came from a radio program he stumbled upon one night. He realized that he was not just a victim but also had a moral debt to repay. This realization helped him shed the burden of bitterness and embrace the present, free from worries about the future. Freedom after 977 days. A former hostage, Michael Scott Moore, talks about his release and the challenges he faced with his physical and mental recovery while learning to accept fate and live in the moment. Michael Scott Moore, a former hostage who was held captive for 977 days, discusses his experience during captivity and his process of recovery. The phone calls between Moore and his captives had ended, and it seemed as if he would be a hostage for an indefinite amount of time. One day he was given a phone to speak to another hostage negotiator, and his immediate reaction was to not get his hopes up. To his surprise, that same day a Land Rover came to his compound, and he was told to be on his way. He was free. Moore wasn't initially sure if he was being tricked or if he was genuinely being freed from captivity. During his journey, the author was reminded of the normal, daily life he had missed out on seeing for so long. Being a hostage had not only physically harmed him, it had also affected his mental health. Upon his release, he found it difficult to adjust to his normal life. His legs were so emaciated from his time in captivity that walking more than a couple of blocks at a time was impossible. Moore had to focus on his mental and physical recovery while learning to live in the moment. Although he sought professional help, he refused to be diagnosed with PTSD because he believed it would become a burden rather than aid his recovery. Despite the challenges, Moore has found valuable lessons in his experience, especially when it came to accepting fate. Although he still has much to process and understand, he believes it will happen with time. Nonetheless, Michael Scott Moore keeps reminding us of the importance of how we accept fate and living in the moment.
In conclusion, The Desert and the Sea presents readers with an insider's view of modern piracy, revealing the brutal reality behind the romanticized notions of pirate life. Through Moore's own experiences in captivity, we gain insights into the motivations and behaviors of the pirates, as well as the importance of mental resilience in overcoming extraordinary circumstances. As Moore's ordeal comes to an end and he begins the process of physical and mental recovery, he shares valuable lessons about accepting fate and living in the moment. This book serves as both a cautionary tale and an inspiring reminder of the power of the human spirit.